I just watched through Cecelia Condit's Jill Sands trilogy. I'm not sure if it's Condit or Condit. This is a trilogy of short films that she made back in the 80s, loosely because they are tied together with the same actress, Jill Sands. The first on the list is Beneath the Skin. This is interesting. Apparently, Cecelia actually dated the man known as the Unicorn Killer and was at his apartment multiple times for about 2 years. Well, there was a dead body of a girl he had murdered in his closet that she was unaware of, supposedly due to medication that she had taken, preventing her from being able to smell. I tried to read up on a lot of this. It is discussed in this short film. She kind of gives a voiceover explaining it. It's a bit hard to source things, as she likes to tell a lot of fictional stories, so it's not 100% clear if this is a 100% true account or if some of it is a bit embellished or not. But this was really interesting. This is probably the most straightforward of the three films. It is a woman recounting this experience, which is largely true. We see lots of imagery. It's kind of really interesting. There's this effect where a woman talking and telling the story is overlaid of a face making different expressions, which is really interesting visually. That makes up the majority of it. Some really other interesting visuals. This flashing skull shows up a lot. It kind of culminates in this musical element. All three of these short films are kind of musical. They're kind of dark comedy. They're kind of horror. They're kind of going all in between them. But the heart of this one is in the dialogue. It's not in the visuals. It's in the story being told, and it is really interesting. It's really compelling. You know, we don't know our neighbors. We don't know the people next to us, and there's a lot going on that we'll just never know. And in some ways, that's a scary thing to think about. I really liked this one. I thought it was pretty thought-provoking. The second film in this trilogy, by far the most popular, is Possibly in Michigan. This got another rise in popularity due to many of the sounds and music from it becoming popular on TikTok. This is probably the least straightforward of the three films. It is very experimental. We start off in a mall with this woman going downstairs. She's talking to this other woman about perfume, and they talk in this very bizarre rhythmical way that's almost musical, but it's just off and very unnatural. There's this creepy individual in the background. This one in particular is very open to interpretation based on what's presented and how the author has commented on it, though. I think it's pretty clear that it's talking about violence against women, men not really being what they appear to be. There's a really interesting part in this where this character, he's described as having put on so many masks he forgot who he was. He saw himself as a Prince Charming. It's really interesting the way we don't see ourselves the way other people see us. And that's kind of delved into here. There's some really just bizarrely funny dialogue. I really like the music in this, especially the opening. I bite at the hand that feeds me. And it has this kind of grainy look in it that's very emblematic of the kind of modern day analog horror that tries to call back to the 80s. But this was actually made in the 80s. It's actually weird how this is one of the rare instances where something feels so emblematic of the conception of an era that it's actually hard to believe it actually is from that era, because it feels more like the ideas we've taken from it than that era actually was, which is a bit hard to explain, but I hope I made sense with that comment. The costume and design in this is really interesting. I really like where we go at the end, bit of a darkly comedic route. This man who appears in the background pretty often, according to Cecelia in an interview, is named Arthur. She was asked why he's named Arthur, and she went on this long rant and said, you know, in many ways art has been used to hurt women. He's like, art hurt her, that's why I named him Arthur. I'm pretty sure this is a joke. I'm like fairly certain of that, but she has that kind of deadpan, monotone, bizarre energy where you can't really tell what's a joke and what's sincere. And you definitely feel that in these films as well. I really like this. It's another 10-minute short film. Definitely give it a watch. The final part of this Jill Sands trilogy is No Jealous Bones. This is definitely my favorite in the trilogy. It's not quite as experimental as Possibly in Michigan, but there's a very clear theme here, and it's one that gets at something that's really universal. Obviously, I'm not a woman, so maybe that affects my ability to relate to the experiences in the first two. I can definitely relate to being afraid of getting older. And that's what this film is about. It is a darkly comedic musical piece about where we are singing about how we're going to be as we'll get older. Some of it is kind of denialism, and some of it is overtly sincere. And I really like it. There's a lot of this imagery of older people, elderly people, not knowing what's going on, seeing their bodies age, not being able to do the things that they once were. And the unfortunate truth of the matter is, as we get older, we will all just become bones in the earth. And eventually those bones will disintegrate and will be nothing but ash. This had my favorite music out of the three films, and while not as funny as the funniest parts of Possibly in Michigan, did have me laugh multiple times. All three of these films are just 10 minutes long. They're all freely available on Cecelia Condit's YouTube channel. I highly suggest checking them out, especially if you're interested in this kind of video horror, almost video essay style things. These aren't traditional narrative storytelling. They're closer to musical montage edits. They use the visuals more like poetry. I think they really do evoke emotions, and they very clearly all have something to say. No Jealous Bones was my favorite of the three. It's possibly a little more straightforward and a more universal theme, which may be responsible for that. But I liked all three of these films, and I do think there's a thematic through line if you get the chance to watch them all back to back. Even watching all three, this is only 30 minutes. I highly recommend. I give all three of these and the trilogy as a whole a 4 out of 6.
4 out of 6.